Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming today. So excited to see all of you. My name's Abby Bloomquist,
I'm Anthony Andronchek.
and we are teaching artists from Kids from Wisconsin, and we just wanted to give you a brief overview on what Kids from Wisconsin is and what we do. We are based in showmanship, leadership, and performance. Those are our founding principles. We've been around for a long time, and we are most famously known as a traveling show choir group of young performers. They go throughout Wisconsin during the summer and do many performances. And we also have an education wing, so we also go into various schools in the Milwaukee area and teach music and dance and performance to kids who don't have music programs. So we love what we do, and we're excited to be here today for all of you. Anthony, do you want to talk a little bit about why you're passionate about
Yeah,
Sondheim? and
I
Broadway?
I pretty recently got into liking musicals a lot, but Sondheim's music, it just speaks to you on a different level. The way he composes is just so emotional,
Hmm.
and it just can reach a different part of you, I think.
Yeah, I love that. I'm passionate about this because I think words are some of the most powerful things that we have access to as humans. And I think it's really cool to deconstruct words and see how different words put together mean different things. And so we're going to be talking about words a lot today as we journey through. So Anthony's going to talk a little bit about Broadway, just a tad.
So, I mean, we all know Broadway is basically like the spotlight of what a musical is and performing. And we all think of like New York, Chicago, but it's everywhere. We have Broadway in Milwaukee sometimes, and it's perfect. I love musicals in general, but a musical is a stage, screen, or television production using popular style songs to tell a story. And sometimes those will come from books that have already been written. Sometimes a book will be written for a musical. You never know. Sometimes it's a mixed basket. So some elements you'll find in a musical is, music and lyrics. We're going to focus on the lyricism today. A book and libretto, choreography will often be present, and staging and physical production.
Amazing. And another thing that we want to touch on is how lyrics function in a musical compared to like a pop song. Because with a pop song, normally it's just about mood and feeling, right? But in a musical, the lyrics serve a very specific purpose, right? It gives insight as to what the character is feeling or thinking or their moment of decision, right? They have to make a choice and they're thinking about their options. What am I going to do? They're working through that. And also, songs move the plot forward, right? A character is very different at the beginning of a song versus the very end of a song, right? They go on a whole journey of discovery and they learn something new about themselves. So they function differently than pop songs. And that's a key element that we want to focus on as well. So we're gonna start with a different Broadway composer. I have a couple pictures on the screen. I don't know if you can see them, so I'll describe them. One of them is Julie Andrews in a field, and there's lots of mountains around her. Another picture is from the musical Oklahoma. Another picture is from South Pacific. And then there's one more picture from Cinderella. And all of these shows have something in common. Their composer is Rodgers and Hammerstein II. So these composers worked as a team, and they wrote a lot of stuff beginning in the 1940s. And they used a Tin Pan Alley way of writing. And how that worked was they used to write the music first and then the lyrics. That's how Tin Pan Alley kind of worked. But this time around, Rodgers and Hammerstein were like, let's do the lyrics first and then write the music to suit that. And the goal with doing that is they wanted to integrate the story more. They wanted the music and the lyrics to make sense completely with the story, which is how a lot of songs are written today. They also achieved writing the first musical play with Oklahoma in 1943. And this was a huge pivotal moment for Broadway because songwriters were not really seen as songwriters anymore. They were seen as dramaticists, right? They had a lot more versatility and ability to contribute to the story than in previous musicals and shows and writers, right? So this was a huge shift for Broadway. Everything became fully integrated. The music and the lyrics and the choreography, everything was integrated to help move the plot forward. And this is the first time that had ever happened on Broadway. So this was a huge revolutionary moment for them. In 1945, they experimented with Carousel, which is another musical. They experimented with musical tragedy, and they did so by killing the hero of the show at the end of the first act, which is very shocking for the 1940s in terms of musicals, right? Because everything always has a happy ending and it ends well, right? With Carousel, that was a really shocking thing for a lot of people, is what is going to happen in Act 2? Like, the main hero is dead, right? So they really experimented with doing that, and they had great success, which has led to a lot of why they're still around today. The great thing about this moment for them is they were getting a lot of traction with the music and the lyrics and all that stuff, and having great success with their shows. So they were able to become their own producers of the musicals that they wanted to write. Because a lot of the times, Broadway songwriters and composers had to write on their own and then pitch it to producers, pretty much just begging people to take their work and to hire them. But Rodgers and Hammerstein became their own producers, so they were able to do their own thing, which is kind of a magical thing. One thing that they had great success with was South Pacific. It's based on the tale of South Pacific, set in World War II. Nellie Forbush, who is the main character, falls in love with a planter named Amelie, and it was a huge hit amongst people, right? Because it really talked about culture. It was a cultural clash, and this is the 1940s still. So this was a huge movement on Broadway. And the seats were being sold at 5 times the box office price because everyone wanted to come see it. At this time, you could see a Broadway show for $8. So since then, obviously, things have escalated.
How much is a Broadway show today?
On average, a Broadway ticket is anywhere, on average, $125.
Oh, yeah.
Average. I've seen a lot of tickets that go from anywhere from like $500 to like in the high 50s, or like $50 or $60 is probably the lowest that you can get today. So huge range, right? And, kind of a sidetrack. I'm going to sidetrack for a minute, but I think a lot of people are trying to push for Broadway to be more accessible with doing recordings of the staged Broadway shows, just so that people have access to that kind of stuff. Because right now, people can't get to New York. They can't afford to go and see a Broadway show or even a local show. So trying to make that more accessible, I know is a huge goal of a lot of producers today. So that's kind of a sidebar, but very good point. So yeah, they were, Rodgers and Hammerstein are the foundation of what we know as musical theater today. So if we want to skip ahead.
I need to.
No, that's okay. Cockeyed Optimist is a song from South Pacific, and it's sung by Nellie, who is the army nurse who is falling in love with Amelia. And with this song, I want to talk about a couple things because theme and mood are really important in songwriting. So I'm going to write these up here, because it kind of sets the tone for what kind of song this is going to be, right? So if we look at this song, when the sky is a bright canary yellow, I forget every cloud I've ever seen, so they call me a cockeyed optimist, immature and incurably green, right? So it's using a lot of words that you would describe with happiness, hope, yes, right? So we're just going to take some of the possible themes: happiness, hope, right? And now we're going to look at some of the specific words they use throughout the song to kind of support these ideas, right? So a bright canary yellow, right? Yellowness, yellow we associate with happiness, right? So we have yellow. Yellow is one thing. A whippoorwill. A whippoorwill is a type of bird. I'll just abbreviate it. And this is a key part, because whippoorwills are associated with communicating like cheerfulness. When you hear their song, that's what they are associated with. So would the song have the same effect if they chose to use a bird like a pelican, or a flamingo, right? There's a very specific reason why they chose to use a whippoorwill, because a whippoorwill makes a very cheerful and bright and positive sound. So that kind of clearly communicates the idea of everyone else is trying to drag me down, like the world is trying to drag me down, but I'm not going to listen to them because I have hope and I have happiness, right? So it's things like that when we write songs, we want to think about what is the theme, what is the mood that we're going for here, and what words can I brainstorm or write to help support that idea. So that's a really key element in this song. And it's one that I'll be singing later, so you'll get to hear it. But we're gonna move onward to our next composer, and the biggest one, I would say. So we have a couple pictures up here, which if you can see or not see. One of them is from Merrily We Roll Along, which is this one right here. This one is from Sweeney Todd. This is from Into the Woods. You have Company and West Side Story. So this composer did all of these musicals, and it is Sondheim.
Yes, we have Stephen Sondheim coming up next. He was actually a friend and protege to Oscar Hammerstein II from the last pair we just looked at.
Mm-hmm.
And he got his beginning start from providing the lyrics to the musicals Gypsy and West Side Story, which was featured on our last slide and a little picture there. He actually, after writing A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum and Do I Hear a Waltz, he actually took a 7-year hiatus from writing. And then he was brought back by Harold Price to help write the musical Company in 1970.
Mm-hmm.
And they both had a mutual interest in trying a new approach involving musicals called the concept musical. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a book or musical built around a central concept, an event, place, problem, the rest, and allowing the audience to focus simultaneously on multiple characters and related plots. So kind of like jumping around from scene to scene, not necessarily one storyline per se, but combining a few different plot points. It was like A Single Life versus Commitment, A Bittersweet Reunion, A Weekend in the Country, A Culture Clash, stuff like that. And every character had a different story to tell, and they all came together in this one musical. This goes beyond the traditional linear narrative, as I was saying, I guess. They involve characters who question themselves and not just ones who stick to one like character plot. And yeah, exactly. An example was Bobby from Company, and I'll be singing a song from Company later. And then the first musical by Sondheim we'll talk about is Pacific Overtures from 1976. It is a sung-through musical, which is pretty normal for Sondheim musicals. And yeah, they're a lot of fun to just listen to music all the way through.
Do you want to explain what a sung-through
Yes,
musical is?
they actually, sometimes they'll be referred to also as rock operas, which is a very strange sort of title for it. If you think like rock, that has nothing to do with opera, right? But it's kind of like a combination of like, it's not classical music, but it's kind of stemmed from it, so they can't really leave it behind. And we'll talk about Sweeney Todd from 1979. The lyrics ranged huge, just opposites in the same musical, because it's a funny musical, and then it gets incredibly dark at points, and there's just opposite ends in the same musical. It's insane. It's a blood-drenched horror story of a barber who kills people. So
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, and the message of it is just how like dark revenge can become. Like the main character's his whole storyline is based on getting revenge. So it's messed up.
And he bakes his victims into pie.
Yes.
Yes.
You know,
It is.
yes.
It's very dark. It's very dark, but there's a lot of comedy that's
Yes.
interlaced throughout it. But yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if you
it's
could
about
handle
revenge.
just dark after dark.
Yes.
And then Merrily We Roll Along was written in 1981. It was a project focusing on young people in show business, and the scenes were actually presented in reverse order, showing how disappointment grows, stemming from the optimism that comes from youth. And sadly, it closed after 2 weeks, but he was praised extensively for the score. And finally, we'll get to Into the Woods.
Yeah, I can talk about
Definitely.
Into the Woods. Into the Woods, written by Sondheim, revises a lot of classic fairy tales and intertwines their stories together, like Little Red Riding Hood and Cinderella and Rapunzel, and a bunch of others. But their stories are woven together. And the idea with this musical is at the end of Act 1, it seems like everyone has gotten what they've wanted, and it ends very positively. It's like a happily ever after at the end of Act 1.
Yep.
In Act 2, everything falls apart, and people die, and tragedy strikes. A whole bunch of things happen, but it's all illustrated to show that in real life, it's not always happy ever after. There are things that are going to happen in your lives that are going to be difficult and are going to challenge you. And it is a beautiful story by Sondheim, one of his most popular works. It did receive the Tony Awards, but it's packed with such emotional depth and insight. And I'm very excited to talk about one of the songs from the show. You're not going to be able to see this. It's too small. But I'm going to talk about it. So there's a moment in the second act where the baker's wife runs into a prince, and the prince kisses her, and she's obviously married to the baker, and he's married to Cinderella. So he kisses her, and they have a moment in the woods, which is what the song is called. And so she wants to be with him, but he said, "Oh, this was just a moment. Like, I'm going back to the castle." And so that moment sends her into this song of, what am I doing? What like what do I want in my life? Do I want a prince or do I want a baker, right? So this is her, was that me? Yes, it was. Was it me? No, it wasn't. Like, that's not me. This is me, right? So it's that whole internal battle of what am I going to do now that that's happened? And so the most beautiful thing about this song is the homophones, because he says woods quite often. So for example, she says, wake up, stop dreaming, stop prancing about the woods, WOODS. It's not beseeming. What is it about the woods? So you look at it, this word, right? Because the location of the story is literally in the woods, right? They're in a forest. That's where almost the majority of, yes, the majority of the show takes place in the woods. But if you look at the song with this concept, completely changes the idea, right? So now with yes, so
Yep.
woods. So now think about it with this in mind, okay? Wake up, stop dreaming. What is it about the woods? It's not beseeming. What is it about the woods? What you would do if you were a princess, or what would you do? So that layer, and it works throughout the whole song. Every time she says woods, you can also have the insight of this. And I will sing it later, so you can listen for it. But this is the kind of depth that Sondheim has in all of his music. And it's really something special. So it rounds out the characters quite a bit, right? It really gives them depth of, the struggle that a human being faces. So this is Sondheim. Okay, moving on. So there's one more composer lyricist we're going to touch on. If you can see, we have something from Mary Poppins Returns right here, Hamilton, In the Heights, Moana are some of this composer's famous work, and it is Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yes, so a very recent musical lyricist and musician and composer, everything. He's just an all-around talent. Lin-Manuel Miranda, he first entered the musical theater scene in 2008 with his musical In the Heights. And a usual thing he does is he'll perform in the musical too, which I think is really cool. Just seeing a composer, lyricist also perform is just a new layer, I think. It's really cool. And he introduced within the Heights street style rap and salsa styles. And it was kind of the first time those styles had made it big on Broadway or in musicals in general. And it helped this musical specifically helped to create a space for people of Latinx descent. And it provided their voices a space on Broadway. And he's most famously known for the rap musical Hamilton, which came out in 2016. It doesn't feel like that long ago, but it really was. And it was based on the founding father, Alexander Hamilton, and everything that happened around the founding of the United States. And he decided that the cast of the musical should be primarily Black and Latinx people, and allowing these groups to bring their own perspectives to the story of America's birth. So he's also written, like Moana, he's written music for many animated films, including Vivo and Encanto, which I think most people would know. They're pretty big. And every element in a musical that he writes serves a dramatic purpose. Everything, like not just the lyricism, every single instrument he thinks of, like even in a song I'm gonna analyze later, In the Room Where It Happens, he considered putting a banjo in the band, because he was like, this is everything about it is perfect for the style. Like it's not even. It's just he thinks of it all. It's crazy, and it's just. I mean, the song "Nonstop" is all I can think of from the musical because he's just a nonstop, like thrilling theatrical experience through the whole thing. It's just gorgeous, and he kind of provided a voice for the next generation of Broadway because, like, even when you think of Hamilton, the audience is pretty young most of the time. It brought like teenagers like myself at the time into Broadway. Like that was one of my introductories, and it kind of the musical kind of gives you like a backstage into how the founding fathers could have felt during these events, not just a full outline of the event itself. You can get that in a history class. So the song I'll be looking at is the Room Where It Happens, which is Aaron Burr's second big solo, but it involves so many people in the song. It's awesome. But Aaron Burr in the show is kind of viewed as an outlier from the rest of the founding fathers because he's not really heads on right into his goals. He's kind of the laid back one who everyone makes fun of because he's like reserved. But his ideals are from the song Wait For It. He's like, I'm waiting for my chance to really push for what I want, and he wants to wait for that perfect opportunity. And in a few cases with other characters, just as another like way he's set aside is when their emotions are heightened a little bit, they'll like the flow of their words starts to change. So they'll like in Satisfied, which is sung by Angelica Schuyler, the oldest Schuyler sister, she's rapping almost the whole time because she's like frantic. She's like, what do I do? This man is so attractive, but I shouldn't be with him. And just it's just genius.
The use of rap in that particular show is really cool because it often illustrates, like you said, like the franticness of like the moment and like what the character's feeling. But then the moments where it's singing, there's a completely different mood and tone of like calm almost, which is it's really cool.
Yeah, so, like at the end of that same song, she's coming into that realization where she's like, no, I shouldn't be with him. My younger sister should. Mm-hmm. And that whole time she's like slowing down and singing instead of rapping. And it's just like, oh, wow, she is just destroyed by this realization. It's such a somber turn for the song to take. And I mean, in The Room Where It Happens, Burr, it's kind of seen as Burr's finally saying what he wants. Like it's his leap into, I need to do something because if I don't, Hamilton's going to take from everyone. And Burr kind of begins the song because the whole song is about the 1790 Compromise, which was a deal giving the Southerners, James Madison and Thomas Jefferson, the rights to determine the location of the capital in the South. And Hamilton got basically all the rights to every financial decision in the country. It was just insane. And Burr picked up on this and he went, how was this deal made? He got so much and just gave up a city. And
everything was just constructed with such care, right? All the main characters are minority actors. Like that was done with complete intention, right? Letting those people, because traditionally those people didn't have a voice in American history. Absolutely.
Definitely.
It was a huge artistic moment, right? Because we'd seen rap on Broadway before, but not nearly as integrated as this.
Yeah, because it's throughout the whole musical.
It's pretty consistent throughout the entire show. But it was also a cultural moment, right? Of having these voices that typically aren't involved in history be the voices. And put all of that together, like that show is going to be on Broadway for a long time.
looking at Burr during the whole song, like in the beginning, he's still fighting with his ideal of, I want to wait, I want to see what happens, and then wait for my chance to strike. And this gets called out right away because beforehand he's questioning Hamilton about like what's going to happen in this deal. And Hamilton's like, I'm going to go make the deal, so don't worry about it. And that's just immediately he's shot down. And every time they like talk about what's happening in the deal, Burr comes back and they're like, and he's like, but we don't know. Everyone, we don't know what's going on. So they could be doing anything. He could be handing over rights, anything like that. You never know what happens behind closed doors. And the first time he interjects between the claims of what's happening, he says, no one really knows how the game is played, the art of the trade, how the sausage gets made. No one knows what's in a hot dog. And that's what's played at by that. He's like, you don't know what they did. And then the second time he brings it up, no one really knows how the parties get to yes, the pieces that are sacrificed in every game of chess. So like you can see a winning match in chess, but if you weren't paying attention to every move they make, you don't know what happened. You don't know what each side gave away. Right.
Mhm.
And then at the end of both of those phrases, he says, we just assume that it happens because you heard the deal was made, but you don't know for sure. The second time the claims happen with what happened in the deal, it's about Thomas Jefferson saying what his take on how the deal went. And he just makes outlandish claims. One of them being Thomas claims that Hamilton basically begged him to join in on this deal. And it's just Jefferson shooting shots at Hamilton like always in the show. And each time it's Thomas claims, the chord that the chorus sings gets more questioning, and then it just gets louder and louder. And then Burr comes back and he just like, but you don't know. He's saying this, but no one knows other than the three that were involved in the deal. But yeah. And then if it's, yeah. This is one of my favorite moments in the show, in this song right here. And it gets to when Burr starts to question Hamilton after the deal, and he starts to hear about what Hamilton got, and he's like, you didn't give up anything. And then Hamilton just goes, but I wanted what I earned, so it doesn't matter how I got it. And it just goes on, and Hamilton's like, I get love for it. People hate me for what I do, but you get nothing if you wait for it, wait for it, wait. And that's a reference back to Burr's Wait for It Again, where he was singing it alone, but Hamilton's singing his ideals right back at him. And it's just calling him out, and Burr is just building this whole song. And he starts to, yes, and then it's at the, oh, what are the other words? I can't remember right now, but Hamilton keeps digging into him, and he goes, you get, he references back to an even earlier song where the first time he called out Burr for waiting, he gets, if you stand for nothing, Burr, what do you fall for? And I think there's this moment, it's just silence for a second, and Burr finally states for the first time what he wants. He says it to himself at this point, but it's so big for him to just go, I want to be in the room where it happens. I want to be making these deals. I want to take finally, instead of just having taken from. And he just repeats it so many times, and it's so big for him. And like it's a heightened emotional state, but he's still an outlier because he's not rapping it. He's still singing. And I'm like, oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
But then it starts to enter a call and response with Burr and the chorus, where they say the art of the compromise, and he goes, hold your nose and close your eyes, basically saying, you wouldn't want to touch this deal with a 10-foot pole. It's not pretty. And making a deal is just overall unappealing. You don't know what's involved. And then the chorus says, we want our leaders to save the day. And Burr says, but we don't get a say in what they trade away. It's just, they can do whatever they want with you. They could be trading away your rights. They can be trading away your property, anything. And you don't know.
Mhm.
And he finally gets to the end and he just repeats and repeats, I want to be in the room where it happened. And it's just such a powerful moment.
Another cool thing that I just want to add about
Yeah.
that song, you were kind of referencing it throughout, but another beautiful thing about Hamilton is that melodic phrases from different songs
Yes.
are used throughout the show and woven together
Yep.
to just add another layer of like, oh,
remember
I'm
this?
circling back to this
Yep.
theme of like, wait for it. Oh, he's still waiting.
Yeah.
You know, like all of that is woven throughout the show as well, which is just brilliant writing and probably why it took years and years and years and years for it to make it to Broadway. But yeah, he takes such care with crafting those
Yeah.
kinds of things. So very cool. All right.
Nice.
And finally, we just wanted to give like a little encouragement to people out there who are really interested in the stuff that we've talked about today and are thinking, hey, like I want to go and write my own lyrics. Just a couple of encouraging things, right? The first step to writing is to write, right? Because I think a lot of the times when I know for me, when I'm writing, it's really easy to just kind of hold it all in your brain and be like, I want to put the perfect thing down on paper.
Yep.
But a lot of the times you just have to let it all out, get it written down, and then edit and go from there, right? Rather than it has to be perfect this time,
Yep.
right? Brainstorming those topics, those themes, the moods, and then using that to help you find different words that you connect with and help portray what you're looking to portray, right?
So that's a good starting point.
Yes.
Themes and moves.
Themes and
Honestly,
moods,
yeah.
right? And you could even put goal also and be like, okay, so what am I trying to achieve with this song? Whether it's pop or musical theater or whatever, right? What do I want people to take away from this? Having those like 3 things is a really helpful tool because then you can break it down from there, right? Because then you have your themes of happiness and hope. And then you think about things that you personally associate with happiness and hope so that you have a personal connection to it,
Yeah.
right? So it means something to you. And then the last piece is figuring out how do I fill in the other words and how do I communicate what I'm wanting to say, right? I know, and if that seems like too much and you're like, I just want to do this for fun, I played around with something called sound lyrics generator.
Oh.
It's something you can Google, but it's a website and they give you prompts, different prompts of like what's something that you like. And they ask you a bunch of different questions and you can fill in answers or you can randomly let them suggest words for you. And then after you answer all the questions, you can hit like submit and it'll put all of your words into a song.
What?
Yeah, it's a cool little tool if you're someone who's like, I don't really know where to start. That's a nice place to start. Or if you just want to do it for fun also, it's a cool tool. And also reach out to people that are around you, like family, friends, mentors, music teachers, right? Be like, hey, I've been working on something, like writing some lyrics. Can I bounce some ideas off of you, or can we brainstorm together? Is also a really helpful tool moving forward. Something we'll make sure that everyone has access to we have QR codes, but we have playlists for each of the composers that we talked about today of some of their really popular songs. So if you liked what you heard today, you can go and listen to some of those composers.
Yeah.
I will be performing Cockeyed Optimist from South Pacific. When the sky is a bright canary yellow, I forget every cloud I've ever seen. So they call me a cockeyed optimist. optimist, immature and incurably green. I have heard people rant and rave and bellow that we're done and we might as well be dead. But I'm only a cockeyed optimist, and I can't get it into my head. I hear the human race is falling on its face and hasn't very far to go. But every whippoorwill is selling me a bill and telling me it just ain't so. I could say life is just a bowl of jello and appear more intelligent and smart. But I'm stuck like a dope with a thing called hope, and I can't get it out of my heart. Not this heart. Next, I will be singing my favorite things from The Sound of Music.
Sound of Music. I knew it. I still bet that'd be great.
Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with string. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things. Girls in white dresses with blue satin sashes, snowflakes that stay on my nose and eyelashes, silver white winters that melt into spring. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens, bright copper kettles and warm woolen mittens, brown paper packages tied up with strings. These are a few of my favorite things. Cream-colored ponies and crisp apple strudels, doorbells and sleigh bells and schnitzel with noodles, wild geese that fly with the moon on their wings. These are a few of my favorite things. Girls in white dresses with blue satin sashes, snowflakes that stay on my nose and eyelashes, silver white winters that melt into spring. These are a few of my favorite things. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. When the dog bites, when the bee stings, when I'm feeling sad, I simply remember my favorite things, and then I don't feel so bad. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I will be singing Moments in the Woods from Into the Woods. Go ahead. What was that? Was that me? Was that him? Did a prince really kiss me? And kiss me? And kiss me? And did I kiss him back? Am I wrong? Am I mad? Is that all? Does he miss me? Was he suddenly getting bored with me? Wake up! Stop dreaming, stop prancing about the woods. It's not beseeming, what is it about the woods? Back to life, back to sense, back to child, back to husband. No one lives in the woods. There are needs, there are ties, there are standards, there are shouldn'ts and shoulds. Why not both instead? There's the answer if you're clever. Have a child for warmth and a baker for bread and a prince for whatever. Never, it's these woods. Face the facts, find the boy, join the group, stop the giant, no one lives in the woods. Was that him? Yes, it was. Was that me? No, it wasn't. Just a trick of the woods. Just a moment, one peculiar passing moment. Must it either less or more, either plain or grand? Is it always or is it never? And that's what woods are for those moments in the woods. Oh, if life were made of moments, even now and then a bad one. But if life were only moments, then you'd never know you had one. First a witch, then a child, then a prince, then a moment who can live in the woods. And to get what you wish, only just for a moment, these are dangerous woods. Let the moment go. Don't forget it for a moment, though. Just remembering you've had an and you're back to or makes the or mean more than it did before. Now I understand, and it's time to leave the woods. Thank you.
It's crazy how when I was thinking of the woods versus the woods when you're singing that, that's
Isn't it wild?
Yeah.
It's wild.
It changes the song
Yep.
completely.
All right, I have one more. It's just a minute. Okay. So I'm just gonna call this the Sondheim mashup of all the wonderful things. Okay. All right, I'm ready.
Cool.
Sometimes people leave you halfway through the wood. We do not belong together. I feel you, Joanna, Maria. I just met a girl named Maria. Being alive, it's the last midnight, it's the last verse. Do not let it grieve you, no one leaves for good. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I'm passing my torch to Anthony.
Hi, I'm Anthony Andronchek. I'm with Kids from Wisconsin, and I'll be performing Being Live from Stephen Sondheim's company. Someone to hold you too close. Someone to hurt you too deep. Someone to sit in your chair and ruin your sleep and make you aware of being alive. Someone to need you too much. Someone to know you too well. Someone to pull you up short and put you through hell and give you support for being alive. Being alive. Make me alive. Make me confused. Mock me with praise. Let me be used. Vary my days. But alone is alone, not alive. Somebody hold me too close. Somebody force me to care. Somebody make me come through. I'll always be there, as frightened as you, of being alive, being alive, being alive, being alive.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
That crescendo at the end on the being alive
Gorge.
kind of really touched me.
Well, yeah. Next, I'll be singing Joanna from Stephen Sondheim's Sweeney Todd. I feel you, Joanna. I feel you. I was half convinced I'd waken, satisfied enough to dream you. Happily I was mistaken, Joanna. I'll steal you, Joanna. I'll steal you. Till I'm with you, then I'm with you there, sweetly buried in your yellow hair.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I'll leave it at that.
Huh?
I'll leave it at that for that song.
Okay.
I'll be singing The Room Where It Happens from Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton. Ah, Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Bird, sir.
Did you hear the news about good old General Mercer?
No.
You know, Claremont Street.
Yeah,
They renamed it after him. The Mercer legacy is secure,
sure.
and all he had to do is die.
That's a lot less work.
We ought to give it a try. So how you gonna get your debt plan through?
I guess I'm gonna finally have to listen to you.
Oh, really?
Walk, left, smile, do whatever it takes to get my plan on the Congress floor.
Now, Madison and Jefferson are merciless.
What? Hate the sin, love the sinner. I'm sorry, Burr, I gotta go.
But
Decisions are happening over dinner.
two Virginians and an immigrant walk into a room diametrically opposed foes. They emerge with a compromise, having opened doors that were previously closed. Rose. The immigrant emerges with unprecedented financial power, a system he can shape however he wants. The Virginians emerge with the nation's capital. And here's the pièce de résistance. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one really knows how the game was played, the art of the trade, how the sausage gets made. We just assume that it happens, but no one else is in the room where it happens. Thomas claims.
Alexander was on Washington's doorstep one day in distress and disarray.
Thomas claims.
Alexander
I
said,
have nowhere else to turn.
and basically begged me to join the fray.
Thomas claims.
I approached Madison and said, I know you hate him, but let's hear what he has to say.
Thomas claims.
Well, I arranged the meeting. I arranged the menu, the venue, the seating.
But no one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one really knows how the parties get to yes, the pieces that are sacrificed in every game of chess. We just assume that it happens, but no one else is in the room where it happens. Meanwhile, Madison is grappling with the fact that not every issue can be settled by committee. Meanwhile, Funk is fighting over where to put the capital. It isn't pretty. Jefferson approaches with the dinner invite. Madison responds with Virginian insight.
Maybe we can solve one problem with another and win a victory for the Southerners. In other words, a quid pro quo.
I suppose.
Wouldn't you like to work a little closer to home?
Actually, I would.
Well, I propose Potomac.
And you'll provide him his vote.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Let's go.
No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened. My God, in God we trust, but we never really know what got discussed. Click, boom, then it happened. But no one else was in the room where it happened. Alexander Hamilton, what did they say to you to get you to sail you New York City down the river? Did Washington know about the dinner? Was there presidential pressure to deliver? Or did you know even then, it doesn't matter where you put the US Capitol.
Cause we all have the banks, we're in the same spot.
You got more than you gave.
And I wanted what I got. When you got skin in the game, stay in the game. But you don't get a win unless you play in the game. Oh, you get love for it, you get hate for it, you get nothing if you wait for it, wait for it, wait. God help and forgive me. I wanna build something that's gonna outlive me. What do you want, Bert? What do you want, Bert? If you stand for nothing,
I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens, the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room where it happens. I wanna be in the room. Oh, I wanna be in, I wanna be in, I got to be in the room, that big old room. Hold your nose and close your eyes. But we don't get a say in what they trade away. But we dream in the dark for the most part. Dark as a tomb where it happens. I've got to be in the room. I got to be. I want to be in the room. I gotta be, I wanna be in the room. Click, boom.